GM. So today's data is probably going to be the best setup for trade of the day. 1:45 p.m. UTC, we will see PMIs for manufacturing and services coming out. They are not always on the same day, if I'm right in saying June 21st, May 23rd, April 23rd, June 21st, May 23rd, April 23rd. Oh, they are. Fine. Okay. Forget that. All on the same day. Good. And I'll just look at the last three to give an idea and a reminder and a refresher from previously about how you can frame some intraday trades around it. Start off though by looking at today. So there's June's, May's, April's. Today's, where are we at as we head into it? So looking at the move we've had down so far, it's pretty efficient. From the top, we dropped down, came back and retested. We dropped down here. There's an area here that hasn't been retested yet. This area was retested, you can see there. Drop down, we're starting to fill up into this, some of this gap from above. Put on 15-minute, you can see. So some untested levels here that are getting retested now in the pre-session. There's a gap up to there. There's also gaps up to there. So there are upper targets. On the downside, this level would have to break, which then opens up the move down into here. So you've got a strong support, at least it should be a strong support all the way down there if price is able to break down into it. And above, you've got some untapped levels from yesterday. A lot of the Bitcoin weakness yesterday was a function of BTC outflows and attention shifting over to Ethereum. Whether that's going to be a sustained thing or just a, short-term flash in the pan, we'll see now. If it's not a lasting, sustained thing, then Bitcoin will probably gather up some strength again and move higher. It took out this Sunday wick low, back inside, pushing back up. So what you want to look at for the actual release itself is allowing price to put in the first 10-15 minutes. So if you go and look at the previous days, like we have over here, right, zoom in, we'll look at 5-minute chart and we will look at this. So where the red line is, that's exactly where the data came out. Started off with an initial dump down into those lows, and then immediately reversed back up, pushed higher, back down, flipped it from resistance, back to resistance again. Once it cleared it out, later on in the session, we got a nice trend towards the highs. So if I was looking at that, just using the data level as your pivot, this break here, when price cleared out above it, after spending time below it, set up a trend towards the liquidity that was set during the day. So that sets up a nice trade idea. If you're looking at what happens when the data comes out, don't react to the data in the moment. Allow 10 or 15 minutes to pass. It went down, price tried to keep going down and was unable to. Once price couldn't consolidate, or couldn't go lower, it pushed higher, rallied up. Of course, as it rallies up, people tend to FOMO and chase into longs. After that, you saw a retracement all the way back down. Price could not go lower again. So 2 more attempts to go lower. And as it started to grind higher, you could see that these stops, anyone who shorted on the way down with stops there were at risk. They got taken out. That was like your initial main trade. And then if you zoom out, you see that took us into the weekend, because this PMIs was on a Friday. Took us into a weekend where price just does nothing, and then the next week it fell over and went lower. You can even see how it respected that PMI level on the Sunday night before we had the collapse down. But I don't look too far ahead on those. These data release days are more for intraday trades. So that would be one of the things I'd be looking at, would be how does it react in and around that area. Zoom out. Let's go and look at May, all the way over here. And let's look at this. Zoom it in, 5-minute chart. So here was the release again. We were already, so the context as well. Price was trending down on the lower time frames. As we headed towards the PMIs and into the New York session on that Thursday, price was coming down. The release came out again, immediate dump. Price consolidates at this area. So what you're looking at there then is you have your initial sell-off, and then you have price consolidating for quite a while here. So the data comes out, people take their initial trades, price consolidates for 3 or 4 hours, and positions are building here. So what your basic logic is, okay, if positions have built here for 3 or 4 hours, which side is going to break? If it breaks to the upside, that means there can be a scrambling for shorts to close. You might see some upside. We got the opposite. Any longs that have built were under pressure, down it goes. Went into more of a choppy sideways phase after that, but the directional move for that trade would have been following the initial direction as price was unable to continue higher. And then if you look in the days that follow, how does price respect around that original PMI level? Pretty well. Held it, acted as sort of a SR. Zoom out again, we'll go look at April. April shows, this is like the ideal, right? So it's good to see June and May because you don't always get perfect trades or great trending trades off it, but in April there was quite a nice level that was set and quite a nice move. So on the lower time frame, you had the release here, and then price consolidated. So after the release, you had 15 minutes consolidation where positions were building, and it pushed up, got an immediate push higher, so you could trade that momentum once it breaks out above that level. It then came all the way back, it held at that level again, was held for a second bounce. So if you're looking at it here, you had your first push, comes back, holds that level, second push, lower high. You can see this, weakness, structure starts to break, exit the longs, and flushes down. Price then holds and chops around that level for the next, that was on what, Tuesday? For Wednesday, it held around the same area, so you had a day of consolidation and choppy day. But once it lost that level, going into Wednesday New York session, you see how it came down. After losing that level, losing the lows, you get a nice directional trending move lower. So that was one where the data day didn't produce the trending move, just produced more of a mean reverting consolidation where you can trade some low time frame scalping, day trading. And then the following day, if you stick with it, you follow it for Wednesday, you get the nice trend move down through Wednesday's session and then going into Thursday. And so that's probably the best way to look at that is the PMIs are an indication of manufacturing health and services health. They are not as impactful to the market. They're not as talked about. There's not as much news written about them in terms of something like GDP or something like inflation or jobs data. So it's definitely lower on the priority scale than those other ones. But there's still absolutely opportunities for some volatility intraday with those moves, and you can trade around them. But my advice would be don't expect any kind of massive moves based off that. I would look at this and say how it's setting up today, if you're looking ahead to 145, which is when it releases. You know, let's say price is going to be somewhere in here, and it's not even going to do that probably. It's probably just going to do this, right? And I would say you're not going to see anything like that or like that, which you might see on CPI. But you can easily see a move back to the lows, which probably hold initially, and then up towards the next resistance, which probably holds initially, right? So that probably holds, that holds initially, and then price will have more consolidation before, I would guess, tomorrow or Friday, making its directional move, whether that's up or down. Currently, it's looking more like down, so you need to be mindful of that. For that to shift, Bitcoin would need to start breaking some of this structure again back to bullish. So I'd say 67.2 is an important level for that. And if you go back and look at the other couple of value area levels that we have over here, the May-June value area low is at 66.9, right? That's from this area here. That May-June level is very important. It needs to get back above 66.9 to be able to push towards 69 and 70. So if that's at 66.9 and you mark that level off here, that is about there. And so whatever happens within today's session, is Bitcoin above or below 66.9 going into tomorrow? I think that is going to be what tells you the next directional move. If Bitcoin is able to get above that area and consolidate, that's where I think that upwards move is more likely. So you're looking at over here. And if it's unable to, you're looking at a downwards move. So I think the next test of 66.9 is important. And where price consolidates after that will probably give you the clearest direction. Are we going down to 64 or are we going up to 68, 69, 70? So the data release will probably allow Bitcoin to move into those areas, but it's not going to be big enough for Bitcoin to flip them. It's probably going to set up another day worth of consolidation. That's statistically most likely. And then tomorrow, Thursday or Friday, you're going to see the more directional move. Of course, you've got the ETFs as well with Ethereum on the second day. See how they go. That's it. GM, GM, GM.